Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into one of the biggest oversights in the history of science. It's a story about genius, betrayal, a discovery that changed the world, and a Nobel Prize that missed the mark.
Yeah, you'd think it's a simple question, right? With a simple answer. But the real story, well, it's way more complex and honestly, a lot more interesting.
So, picture this. It's 1945, and the Nobel Prize in Chemistry is being awarded. It goes to just one scientist, the German chemist Otto Hahn. The official reason? For his discovery of the fission of heavy nuclei. Now pay close attention to that phrasing, his discovery.
So where was Lise Meitner? I mean, she was his partner for 30 years. She was the physicist on the team, the one who actually figured out what was happening. Her not being on that stage, that's the real mystery we're going to solve today.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the incredible partnership they built. Then, we'll cover Meitner's harrowing escape from Germany and what it was like for her in exile. From there, we'll see how the actual discovery happened from a distance, dig into the politics behind the Nobel Prize, and finally, talk about the amazing legacy she left behind.
Okay, so to really get what was lost here, you first have to understand what they built together. Lise Meitner, she was an absolute trailblazer in physics, just knocking down barriers right from the get-go. Just take a look at this timeline. We're talking about an era when women could barely even get into a university, let alone teach at one. And Meitner, she wasn't just there, she was leading the charge. She got her own physics department and became the very first woman in all of Germany to be a full professor in physics. That's not just progress, that's rewriting the rules.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. This quote is from Otto Hahn himself. Even he admitted that Lise Meitner was the real intellectual powerhouse, the one who put their institute on the global map.
But this amazing collaboration, it was on a collision course with one of the darkest moments in history. When the Nazis came to power in 1933, everything changed, and the scientific world in Germany was shattered.
You see, for a while, her Austrian citizenship offered her some protection, but after Germany annexed Austria, poof, that shield was gone. Overnight, she was a German citizen, and because of her Jewish heritage, she was subject to Nazi law. It became life or death. On July 13, 1938, her friends smuggled her out of the country. She left with pretty much nothing.
So Meitner makes it to Stockholm. She's hoping to find a safe place to continue her life's work. But what she found was a cold shoulder. She was basically isolated, pushed to the margins.
Just look at the difference here. It's night and day. In Berlin, she was a professor, a department head, a leader. In Stockholm, she wasn't even technically on staff. Her pay was tiny, she had zero assistants, no equipment, not even keys to her own lab space. The head of the institute there, a guy named Mane Siegbahn, essentially made sure she was an outsider.
This quote from a letter she wrote to Hahn is just heartbreaking, like a wind-up doll. You can just feel the despair. She'd lost everything, her home, her lab, her colleagues, her language.
And right here, this is what she was most afraid of. It wasn't just about being lonely or unsupported in the moment. She was terrified that being out of sight meant she'd be out of mind, that her entire life's work, her role as the leader of their team, would just be erased.
But here's the thing, and this is the incredible part of the story. Even while she's in this professional and personal nightmare, her incredible mind is about to solve one of the biggest puzzles in the universe. And that puzzle is nuclear fission. The process that would literally define the atomic age. And guess who came up with the theory to explain it? Lise Meitner, working with her nephew, Otto Fresch. They even came up with the name nuclear fission itself. Okay, so this is how it all went down. Step 1, the puzzle. Back in Berlin, Hahn does an experiment and gets this bizarre result. He finds barium where it shouldn't be. He's totally stumped, so he writes to Meitner. Step 2, the insight. Meitner is spending Christmas with her nephew, and while they're out for a walk in the snow, it hits her. The uranium nucleus isn't just chipping off a piece, it's splitting in two like a water droplet. It's a massive breakthrough. Step 3, the calculation. They sit down and do the math and realize that this process unleashes a huge amount of energy. And finally, step 4, the publication. They write it all up and send it to the journal Nature. So you see, Hahn had the weird lab result, but it was Meitner who had the world-changing explanation.
So that brings us to the big question. If her insight was the key that unlocked this whole thing, why in the world was she left out of the Nobel Prize? Well, it wasn't just one simple reason. It was like a perfect storm. First, Hahn started to publicly distance himself from his non-Aryan colleague for political reasons. Second, just the fact that she was physically gone from the lab made it easy for people to forget her role. Then you have the internal politics. Remember her boss in Sweden, Manne Siegbahn? Well, he was on the Nobel Committee and was definitely not in her corner. And finally, the committee itself was just confused. They didn't really know how to judge this work that was part chemistry, part physics.
But this was the real nail in the coffin. When Hahn gave his Nobel lecture, he basically rewrote history. He downplayed Meitner's role and framed the discovery as a triumph of chemistry that went against the physics of the day. But the truth is, it was her physics that made any of it make sense.
Now, the Nobel Prize is often seen as the last word, but history, well, history had other plans. The committee never corrected its mistake, but the scientific community, they found a much more lasting way to set the record straight. In 1997, long after she passed away, she was given what is maybe the most permanent honor in all of science. An element on the periodic table itself was named for her.
Element 109. It's called Meitnerium. A Nobel Prize is an award, but an element, that's part of the very fabric of the universe. It's forever. And just look at the inscription on a commemorative medal. She explained nuclear fission. It's not she helped or she was part of it, it's she explained it. A direct, powerful, and permanent recognition of what she truly did.
So Lise Meitner's story really makes you think, doesn't it? How does history decide who gets the credit? It shows us that a prize can be given for all the wrong reasons, but the truth has a way of coming out. The first draft of history isn't always the right one, but in the end, the scientific record found a way to honor one of its true giants.